Hello and welcome back to Elden Ring, Rage Gaming, and another episode of things you didn't know in Elden Ring. Today we have a bit of back and forth in the comments once again and some interesting tips. I just want to highlight that this is in fact episode 30 of this insane series. It's wonderful we've made it so far, and as always, it's largely down to you guys in the comments giving me stuff to look into and work with. Some weeks I struggle to find interesting details, and if not for you guys dropping comments on things that you are aware of or you've been noticing, we never would have got this far. So thank you so much again. Let's begin the episode. We begin today's episode with our first thing, and unfortunately, I am really sad to say that this is a really sad and disappointing change that I just want to highlight in this series. There's been an incredible tool that you can use in Elden Ring since 1.0, but that has changed. You can no longer do it in 1.08. The infinite sprint. When you are in mid-combat and stamina is being drained, you will be able to do a very simple trick, and I've shown this in the series before. Simply crouch and stand back up again using that stealth crouch. What that would do would basically stop the stamina from being drained, restart it, give it a chunk of stamina back, and then you'd be able to sprint for a lot longer. In fact, you'd be able to sprint infinitely. With the new patch, a lot of cool additions, changes, and balance things have actually occurred, along with the new Colosseums. But yeah, the worst part is definitely the removal of the crouch stamina restore. So as you can see, we're in combat and I've just crouched and stood up and no stamina was recovered at all. And again, and again, and again. Yeah, there's just nothing happening. They very clearly removed it in patch 1.08 in a very subtle way and a really disappointing way because, God, what an incredible tool that was. And not like that offensive, I don't think, especially in a PvE playthrough. Although I can imagine in, say, an invasion scenario where the host is infinitely running away from you and you're just trying to fight and they can never run out of stamina by making use of that simple crouch while sprinting. That's probably the most valid reasoning to remove it. That being gone is, I guess, like I say, understandable, but very sad. Moving on from that sad one then, we have one that's quite intriguing to read. It comes from the comments of the previous video. Fallen Angel Zagreus lets us know that you can actually confuse the weather in select places in the game. Now, we are in the Lakes of Liurnia to test this, where basically it is often misty and very rainy. It's a great place to test it, and it also has the spires around it. Basically, Zagreus says that if you enter one of the towers and go to the top room, it will simply confuse the weather and default to as if it's perfectly sunny outside, even though it is certainly not on the outside. Well, it definitely is true in a manner of speaking. We're not quite at the top, but just as I was going up, I noticed, look at this. Outside, it appears to be a sunny day, except it is raining actually. There's a tiny bit of rain that I can see falling. But what I have come in from, staggeringly different to the weather I'm looking at through this hole. As I step outside, it should shift back to what it actually is outside. Clearly raining, yes, but very foggy, very misty, quite dark. But as soon as I step back inside, nah. Actually, it's quite sunny out there. It's just raining somehow. Let's do what Zagreus actually told us to do, though, and go all the way to the top room just to have a look if this happens. And yeah, this is actually easier to see because I'm inside and I've got windows. And all of the mist being gone is actually really cool. I can get a proper view of the academy there. We can look over at the Bell Towers. We can look over at Ranni's area with the three sisters. I am not seeing any rain anymore. Not only is the mist and all the darkness changed, but no rain is occurring at this level. But when I step outside, the mist is back, the weather's changed, and it's again raining. What a strange little detail. What an interesting find. Apparently, they personally believe it's to do with how the cell is loading in for this internal building. Apparently, this trick works in various places in Elden Ring. They also said that it will happen in the hallway right before the Erd Tree. And as Zagreus says, it could be a useful thing to know about if you want to take some pictures or screenshots without the weather getting in the way. Next up, we have another one from the comments, and I'm so sorry, but I'm talking about it again because this is quite interesting. An ongoing discussion we've been having is to do with Farum Azula, which is all the way over here in the sky to the east, and there's different theories as to why it's here and where it used to be and what the shape of this land used to be. There are theories that it used to be more of a circle with Farum Azula at the center where this cloud is, but a theory I personally more subscribe to is that Farum Azula used to be right here, and this sort of wormhole represents where it's been ripped out and sent away from. Further, you have areas at the top area of Caelid, such as this bridge called the Farum Great Bridge, leading all the way up here to what is now known as the Bestial Sanctum, but maybe previously an entry point to the city. But Maxim Tribune suggests that there might be more to it, that Farum Azula may have always been an area that hangs in the sky, perhaps over here, but never actually connected to the land in an obvious way. Behind the Bestial Sanctum is actually a secret that you can find. It's also where you find that dagger for bestial incantations. Down here is actually quite a big area that's completely unused other than that body with the dagger on it. But if you stop and pay a bit more attention to what's there, all the way at the bottom where you pick that dagger up, this is actually a circular shape. We have seen quite a few floating elevators that are based on this kind of disc shape, and it's very intentional where you actually find the dagger. So Maxim actually suggests that maybe this spot was the elevator, the way that you would enter Farum Azula. And now that I look at it on the map, it is quite literally at the perfect point behind the Bestial Sanctum, which may have served as a gate to lead you to this elevator that would take you up to Farum Azula, or at very least across to it. Silver Fox had a reply that I've got to call out to this, which is, as I was suggesting, the map looking like a furled finger, the way it curls around, and the fingernail being this top right point of Caelid. Could it have been lore factual that this finger flicked Farum Azula away? Just think about it. Just consider that. Moving on though, we have one from Lunapod, which is actually the top comment of one of our previous episodes, to my own surprise because of the topic at hand. It's to do with new players and a tip that could be actually really beneficial to them, although it might seem more obvious to you or I or anyone that's played the games for a long time. It's to do with how the role actually works. As Lunapod actually calls out, and is correct in saying so, when you activate your role, it's actually not on the initial button press of your roll button. So circle for me on a PlayStation controller or B on an Xbox or whatever. It's when you let go of the button that it actually triggers. Because if you think about it, of course it works like that. When you press that button, multiple things can happen, such as I just did accidentally, standing, a backstep, or while moving, a roll. Or if I hold the button down, I'm going to activate the sprint. Previously, in the older games, that would also be your jump button. You would be mid-sprint and then you would let go and quickly tap the same button to jump or sprint to then jump. They changed that over time and made it so while sprinting, you press the left stick in with a controller. But obviously now we have a dedicated button to jumping because it's a thing we can do just by standard. This is an important tip though, that when you press the roll button, it's not until you let go that it actually triggers, and specifically you must be moving. Clearly people agree because it was the top comment on the video. But also in my experience very recently, I've been going through the game with someone who is brand new and is playing for the first time, and I've been feeding them tips, slowly. Something that has actually come up here though is that I swear I rolled. If you don't know how it actually specifically works on the let go while moving, you might try to do it and get hit anyway because you did the input wrong or misunderstood. This could be a useful tip for you and your friends or other people that are trying the game for the first time. I believe Elden Ring had its first sale recently, and it makes me wonder what other little details like that could we suggest to new players to help them in their initial first journey. Next up, one that is quite unexpected to do with the Ash of War rain of arrows that you can use on various bows, and is arguably the best Ash of War that you can really pick because of the DPS that it can actually pull out in both PvP and PvE on a target that gets hit by them. This works best against bigger, larger targets, and that is obviously many bosses in this game. At the bottom left, you can see the arrows I've currently got equipped and also the amount of them. So I have 99 regular arrows and 70 bleed-based arrows that I can fire, whether I'm aiming or otherwise. You can see the number goes down. Each individual arrow that I fire, of course, the number is going to go down. However, despite the fact that Rain of Arrows uses many arrows and will strike with many arrows and will in fact apply whatever arrow you're using, so let's say with the bleed arrows I'm using, I'm only using one singular arrow. I went from 69 to 68, but obviously that's a lot more than one arrow that just landed. And every single one of those arrows applied the bleed that I tried to use. This is true with every status or element-based arrow that you could use. Whether you're using fire against fire-weak enemies, the rot to get some scarlet rot, maybe you're trying to apply some sleep, destroying some opponents with some holy damage like the undead, or landing some poison, whatever it is, Rain of Arrows will get way more bang for your buck with a single arrow use getting maybe around, would you say, 10 different hits, while they're not exactly all on target. If it is a standing still enemy or it's large enough, every single one of those will hit and it will cost you a single arrow. Let's give this a quick test just to showcase how relevant this is when we're dealing with a larger enemy. Even though this weapon is obviously +0, I've not got a build for it or anything like that. We're just going to see how effective that actually can be. So that's it on the head, dealing extra damage because I'm dealing damage to the head. But as you can see, when I fire at the body, it's going to land and actually land a lot more arrows on the full thing. And while I have played the game to death at this point on this save, and I have a lot of different resources to craft pretty much anything I need, a brand new player, or me in a new playthrough on a new character, certainly isn't going to have the same resources. Knowing what I know now, I would definitely pick up a little cheap bow and maximize the weaknesses of the enemies that I'm going to fight using only a couple arrows. I can make that more effective by knowing that I can make those few arrows I have go a lot longer using this Ash of War. Last up then, we have this interesting one to do with fear, and an item that was cut from the game, never finding its way into the full vinyl version we play. Now, if you never stop to think about it, it is interesting to consider this room where you find fear and give it that hug, get your Baldachin's blessing, receive your permanent health down debuff, and never even realize, like many of us did in our original playthroughs. But you know, it's quite strange that this very fancy bedchamber even exists in the Round Table Hold. Now, all to do with the Baldachin's blessing and the lore to do with it is that you're envisioning a private bedchamber to rest and recover in. I won't get deep into it now, but I like the theory that this room doesn't actually exist for anyone else but us. We step into it because fear created this sort of image as part of the Round Table Hold. Maybe the room doesn't exactly exist, or maybe we're transported somewhere else. The nature of the Round Table Hold is questionable to begin with. It's almost like it's an imagined place. In any case, it serves its purpose as a private bedchamber. The cut item I refer to is this one, the Lucent Baldachin's Blessing, which was found by Ivy, or Ivy here on Twitter. This strange, small, square carving is quite literally a little image of a bedchamber, a little carving, I guess, that you would carry around. When you hold it aloft, as you can see, it has quite the unique golden animation, displaying that kind of bedchamber entrance in holy light in front of you. Now, what that would do would reward you, and seemingly those around you, with one singular regular Baldachin's Blessing, which means that you could technically, with this item, if you're in co-op with friends or whatever, pop this and then put that item in their inventory, which means they would have a permanent health debuff until they noticed and popped it. What a shame we didn't have that. However, it has a little bit more to it. We have the description of the item. A sacred seal of a hidden shrine that looks much like a bedchamber. A faint light leaks through a crack in its fastened doors, though, as if the firefly is beckoning to come inside. However, the item appeared to have been consumed on use, but maybe we could have got more or crafted more if for some reason we really wanted that blessing. So I suppose in hindsight, I can understand why the item never made it to the full version. It's not exactly that relevant, but it was a unique, totally unique animation and strange item that it's a shame it never made in, especially with the trolling we could have done to our friends. Like I said though, this bedchamber, quite a strange place if you really step back and think about it, and the story that unfolds with Fear and Dee. It is also a place where we have a mirror where we can change our appearance. So again, I'm not sure if anyone else even sees this or can access it other than us, maybe, but let me know what your theories on that are. And so ends our 30th episode of this series. I hope you found that interesting like I did. And if you guys have anything that you've noticed strange, unusual, or interesting, especially with 1.08 and the new changes that people might not have noticed and weren't mentioned in the patch notes, then drop it in the comments. You might help someone, and you might even make it into the series, of course, with a shout out. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.